everyone, I'm Crystal Stein, the author of Holy Hustle, and I'm really excited to be with you today. And we're going to be talking about rest, which probably seems a little funny considering the name of my book is Holy Hustle, but I promise it will make sense soon. So I really do wish that I could be there with all of you in person, but unfortunately Pennsylvania is a little too far away for the trip this time, but who knows, you guys, maybe sometime. I would love to meet all of you. I have been definitely catching up on all of the Instagram photos that you guys post, all of your gatherings. It looks amazing. If anybody wants to come start a chapter in Pennsylvania, I would be so here for it. I think it's really incredible. So thank you for everything that you do, for the way that you create safe spaces for moms to come in and just connect with one another and feel refreshed and refueled, and we're going to talk about that today. So I hope that that's what you end up feeling when we're done with our time here together. So when it comes to this idea of holy hustle, which is ultimately about working hard and resting well, finding that elusive work-rest balance that so many of us need in our lives, right? It's really easy for me to do the first part. I love work. I love checking the boxes off my to-do list. I have way too many jobs. I do too many things, and it's easy for me. It's how I'm wired. And on the other hand, rest is really hard for me. You would think that would be the easy one, right? Well, of course we rest. We sleep at night, hopefully. I guess it depends how old your kids are. But it's really not easy for me to rest in the way that really refreshes and refuels my soul. And that was where I was when I started writing Holy Hustle, was coming out of a season of just real burnout and stress, coming off of a season where things just did not work out the way that I wanted them to. It was a series of failures, things that I did, things that others did along the way that impacted sort of where I thought my life was going. And I couldn't figure out why I just couldn't get it together. And it was because I was trying to do it all on my own, in my own strength. I was still striving and pushing 24/7 because that's what Instagram tells us hustle is, right? And so I was sitting in church one day and our pastor was doing a message series on the book of Ruth, which I was like, I know this is fine, skip ahead, as one does. And it's okay. I've told my pastor this story. He thinks it's funny. But I get to the part in Ruth where Ruth is out working in the fields, and I'm like, man, she is working hard. That is not an easy task. And it was in that moment that God started to open my eyes to the way that he gives us examples of work in the Bible, where I was struggling because I felt really guilty about loving work. And then I also felt really ashamed that I needed rest, but I didn't know how to do it well. And it was the beginning of a journey for me, where I was starting to realize that if I looked into scripture, if I spent time with God, he would reveal some of the things that I needed in my life in that season, his examples of work and examples of rest. And so that's where Holy Hustle came from. The idea that we're not hustling for ourselves and for our own glory, but doing work that honors God and loves other people well, ultimately, at the end of the day. So learning how to rest well has honestly taken a lot of work. It's so hard. I have to practice it and be intentional every day because it takes trust. It takes trust that what I am not doing in those moments of rest will be okay without me. I had to really take a hard look at the reasons why this was a struggle for me, and to really reflect on what was it that was keeping me from resting so well. And it came down to this idea that I thought I needed to be in control. It was my pride, right? I found myself saying things like, no one else could do this the way that I can. Or if I don't do it, who will? Or if I say yes to all of these opportunities, I'll have job security, right? I don't have time to rest. Or it's just easier if I do it myself. Do any of those sound at least a little bit familiar? Have you thought any of those maybe recently, trying to put laundry away or put the dishes in the dishwasher in the right order? There is an order, you guys. It's a matching game. I'm not sure why my family seems to not understand. It's okay though. So, whether it's about the work that we need to do to maintain a household, or check off tasks on our to-do list, or the commitments we've made for friends, right? My pride was telling me that I needed to strive and work harder than everyone else to prove that I was irreplaceable. It came down to an issue of security. If I could only do all of these things, if I was always available, I would be needed. Somebody would find me worthy and they would have a place for me. In reality, all it did was cause me burnout, stress, depression, anxiety, and a real lack of joy that comes when we live outside of our calling and that place that God has prepared for us. My pride was telling me that stepping away from work or social media or taking a break meant that somebody else would step in and take over and that I would be forgotten. Also, I don't know if you guys can hear it, so I'm recording this on a day that my 7-year-old daughter's home, so if you hear lots of stomping, she's not happy that I asked her to be quiet. There might also be singing, so if that's what you're hearing in the background, welcome to the lovely world of a mama who works from home sometimes. I know you guys get it. So back to our example in Genesis, right? It shows us that rest is necessary. And I just realized I don't know that I explained that example in Genesis to you yet. So in addition to the book of Ruth, the book of Genesis in the Bible is really influential in this idea of holy hustle, because it is in those first chapters that God explains and demonstrates and shows us what it looks like to be created in his image, to be created to create, but also shows us what it looks like at the end of our work to rest. And it's not because God needed to rest. He doesn't get tired. He doesn't grow weary. But I really have a feeling that he knew, because he knows us so well, that if he didn't give us that example, we would see the first part of creation be like, let's go. We are going to work our fingers off and we're going to create and it's going to be amazing. And then we wouldn't know what to do after that. And we would just keep going on to the next thing. And so he was so gracious to give us an example, the very beginning, the very first chapters of the very first book of the Bible, to show us what it looks like to work hard and to rest well and to celebrate in between those little moments when we do things well. And then at the end of it all, to take that time to say the work was good and the rest is holy, and to take that time away to rest and recharge and refuel so that we can keep doing the work. Because that's the key. The key to resting well isn't hiding under our covers and binge watching Netflix, although I definitely do that sometimes. The key is connecting with God so that we can be ready to continue to walk in his will and do the things he's calling us to do with energy and passion and excitement and joy. One of my favorite things to do is to find how science connects with what God says. God knew it and science is catching up, right? So whenever we don't have proper rest, our immune systems struggle to keep us healthy, right? We're at higher risk for chronic illness and we gain weight because our bodies can't produce the right kind of hormones to regulate hunger. And we end up craving high carb foods, right? And we end up with high blood pressure and diabetes and heart disease. All of this from a lack of sleep. When we're trying to work without proper rest, our brains cannot function at their highest ability. I think as mamas, we know that is a fact, right? And the reason I know that all those other symptoms are true is because a few months ago, I was undergoing a series of tests to figure out why I was experiencing all of these. What was happening? And I went through all kinds of sleep tests and all kinds of things, and it turned out that one of the medications that I was on was working well, except for the fact that at night it would kick in and make my body have this extra boost of energy in a way where I wouldn't necessarily feel it, but my brain would be like, we are on, let's keep partying, we got this. And I couldn't fall asleep, I couldn't stay asleep, and it added up. Day after day, month after month of sleep deprivation, you guys, is so hard on our bodies. We are not meant to live that way. And so went through all the tests, got medicine sorted out, everything changed literally overnight. As soon as that medication was out of my system and something new had taken its place and I could sleep, I was awake and aware and excited to do my job again. And it made all the difference. Rest is so necessary, and God knew it. He knew He designed us this way, and science is backing up what He says now. So I just want to make sure that I'm covering everything I want to say in the time that we have together. And I want to make sure that we focus here on what rest looks like for us. Because it's really easy to hear the world, and by the world, I mean your friends, people you know at church, people you don't know but follow on Instagram, tell us what that should look like in our lives. And I'm really passionate about quieting those shouts of should. And we'll have another book coming out because I'm that excited about this topic. But quieting those shouts of should that tell us things should look a certain way. We should do this. We should be here by now. We should rest in a way that looks like this so we can take a cute picture and put it on Instagram. And that is not what rest is about. True rest is not about looking cute with your fuzzy blanket and your cup of coffee, although that can be really fun. True rest is about taking that time to connect with God. And that is going to look as different for you and me as our work does. The things that God gifted us to do look so different, and we have accepted that. We know that we are all created to work in unique ways and love people in unique ways and serve and have families that look special and different. And we forget that our rest is part of who we are, who God created us to be, and that can be unique too. And that's where I want us to focus a little bit of time, because you're going to have the opportunity. There should be a handout that you'll all be able to do where you kind of go through this, but thinking about what really brings you rest. For me and my husband, we both work in fields that are pretty intellectual. My husband's a third grade teacher, so there's a lot of counseling and things that happen with that too, with 8-year-olds. And I'm a writer, and I also work as a communications director. And so a lot of our time is spent either teaching or reading or writing or using that particular side of our brains. And so in order to feel rested, a lot of times we find ourselves being drawn toward things that are more manual labor. So in the time that my husband has off work over the summer, he's out in the yard doing yard work, and he's doing maintenance around the house, and he's building things, right? Because that gives the side of his brain that he uses all the time rest. And I have found that doing fun art projects with my daughter, or planting something or baking something, that to me, it's still super creative and something that I really love, but I get to use my hands and I get to get a little messy and do things that I don't normally do. But the other thing that brings me rest, because I spend almost all of my time in front of a screen, just like this, is spending time in person with people. And I know that doesn't look like rest. If you follow me on Instagram, you're gonna be like, this girl does not stop. But the thing is, when I'm taking a road trip with my family to go visit somebody, or we're out at a park, or we're connecting with friends from church, those are the moments to me where I do get to connect with God. And it's not because of the things we're doing. It's because we are taking the time to make God a priority in those moments, to thank Him for the things that He has given us that we get to work on and maintain, or thanking Him for the friends that we have that we get to connect with, or just having conversations without screens with our family, right? So I can start to hear the dreams that my daughter has, or the things that are burdening my husband's heart, maybe with his students in his class. And those are moments where we get to connect on a deeper level, and that is restful to me. So whatever that rest looks like for you, maybe it's going for a walk or a run or gardening or volunteering or, spending time with a few close friends, right? Whatever that looks like for you, embrace that. Embrace how God created you to rest so that you can lean into doing it more often and do it well, so that you can keep being the amazing woman that God made you to be. Because He really does have good plans for you to prosper, plans for you to be there for your family and love them well. And you cannot do that if you are drained dry and not taking care of yourself. And we are almost out of time, and I had so much more I wanted to say to you. Oh, I'm so sorry. See, if I was there in person, we would just spend days together. It would be fantastic. But here are the 3 things that I want you to have as takeaways, and then we're going to talk a little bit about scripture. Hopefully I'll get it in, and then I have 3 questions, then we're going to wrap up, and I'm so sorry it's over 15 minutes. But here are the 3 things I want you to take away from this. Resting well helps us Work hard at the work God has given us to do, whatever that looks like. Resting well is obedience, and it helps us connect with God. And rest tells the world that God is our priority, and we're letting Him set the pace. So the scripture I wanted to read for you, and I was going to dig deep into it, and we were just going to have so much time, and I'm sorry, but I think you're going to love it anyway. I'm going to do like the Cliff Notes version. I will say this particular scripture is in Holy Hustle, so you can go dig deep there. But it's Psalm 46:10. It's my favorite scripture. And it says this. Nope, I skipped right past it, you guys. This is what I get. I have a lot of words here. Okay. It says, "Be still and know that I am God." And one of the reasons I love it is if you break it down, and this is one of my favorite things to include in Holy Hustle, it says this: be still and know. Be still and know I am God. Isn't that amazing how you can break each section of that down? I would encourage you to take some time, read that scripture, write it down, look it up in a bunch of different translations and paraphrases, and just see which one sticks with you. Keep it around so that you can have that reminder for your heart and for your mind when you're feeling overwhelmed and overworked and overmommed, right? That it is okay to be still. We can slow down and we can trust God's pace, and we can rest well in Him, knowing that He's going to take care of everything we're not doing. He never stops. He never sleeps. It all keeps happening in His time, and we can rest in that. So here's my final prayer for you. I know we're over time, but I want to read this to you really quickly just so that I make sure that I pray for you guys out of Romans 12, okay? So as you embrace this work hard, rest well lifestyle and you choose Holy Hustle, so here's what I want you to do. God helping you. Take your ordinary, everyday life, your sleeping, eating, going to work, and walking around life, and place it before God as an offering. Embracing what God does for you is the best thing you can do for Him. Don't become so well adjusted to your culture that you fit into it without even thinking. Instead, fix your attention on God. It will be changed from the inside out. Readily recognize what He wants from you and quickly respond to it. Love from the center of who you are. Don't fake it. Run for dear life from evil. Hold on for dear life to good. Be good friends who love deeply. Practice playing second fiddle. Don't burn out. Keep yourselves fueled and aflame. Be alert servants of the Master, cheerfully expectant. Don't quit in hard times. Pray all the harder. And before we close our time together, I just wish I was there with you. Oh, goodness. Before we close our time together, here are 3 questions that you will also find more questions on that handout, but here are 3 questions to consider as you discuss with the women around you. 1, why are we afraid to rest? When you really get down to the root of it, what keeps you from resting? 2, what is it that we think will happen if we stop or ask for help or allow others to be part of what we're doing? And 3, what can we be missing by waiting for the perfect time to work or rest before we get started? Friends, I am so grateful to have been with you today, and I am praying for you and cheering for you, and so thankful that you chose to include Holy Hustle in your amazing lineup of books. So one of these days, I hope to get up there to visit all of you. Thank you for being on the East Coast, first of all. And hopefully I will get to connect with some more of you soon, maybe on Instagram or however you want to reach out to me. I would love to hear from you.